In this episode of The Frieze, we've got a recap of today's spring training game between the Yankees and the Phillies from George M. Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. Then we will check in on which players are having a good spring. And finally, I'll give you my opening day lineup versus the Red Sox and tell you who would be sitting if I were the manager. Let's get started. I am Derek, and this is The Frieze.
Good afternoon. How do y'all like that? Swings, and this is strike three. And the Yankees win again.
Beautiful Tuesday afternoon in Tampa, just 9 days from opening day. Phillies in town. Clark Schmidt, former first-round draft pick, was on the mound. He threw 3 innings today. At times, he looked very good. His first inning was especially sharp. Had a good fastball, a really sharp slider. Showcased a couple of mechanical fixes. He was around the zone. He would also fall back into his old habits from time to time. More on that later. Yankees got a 3-run home run from Marwin Gonzalez off of Aaron Nola. He's having a really good spring. That's his 3rd home run of the spring. He's kind of allowed the Yankees to take their time with Oswaldo Great Hair Cabrera. He's probably going to begin the season in AAA, get a little bit more seasoning, and Marwin Gonzalez will give you a veteran presence off the bench. We saw some of the regulars getting more at-bats, going through the lineup a 4th time today. Josh Donaldson was your leadoff guy. Aaron Judge was in center field, and Giancarlo Stanton was in right field. Not the jumbo package, though, because Aaron Hicks was in left field, and Joey Gallo was out there in left. I'll dig more into my lineup later in the episode, but I think that it would be a good idea for the Yankees to go with that jumbo package of Giancarlo Stanton in right, Aaron Judge in center, and Joey Gallo in left on opening day. That does take a left-handed bat out of your lineup with Aaron Hicks going to the bench, but we'll dig more into that later on. Kyle Higashioka with another big day. He's got 4 home runs this spring. I think it's interesting that Kyle Higashioka and Marwin Gonzalez, 2 guys who are not great hitters in the major leagues, both showcasing a lot of power this spring. I wouldn't read too much into it. Spring training is a place where the eyeball test works better than anything, and a lot of these guys are looking pretty good. It's time to take a look at who's doing what this spring. And to me, the big key takeaway so far this spring is how good some of the young pitchers have looked. Of course, this is year number 2 for Matt Blake. And last year we saw a lot of players using the changeup more. We saw a lot of players develop a much better changeup. Domingo Germán, for example. Corey Kluber was using it more than he ever used it. And Garrett Cole used his changeup very effectively. This year, we've seen a lot of guys improve with their velocity, and we're seeing some guys who already had some great velocity take that next step with their command. So far this spring, Luis Gil has been the most impressive. He actually leads the Yankees in strikeouts, tied with Jordan Montgomery and Wandy Peralta with 6. But he's only allowed 2 hits and no runs in 5 innings this spring. And look, spring training stats don't matter, but I'm going to read them anyway because it's just indicative of how well he's been performing and how good he's looked. His fastball's been sitting at 98 and nobody's been able to touch it. Deivi Garcia, who had an ERA over 6 in the minor leagues last year, took enormous strides backwards, has made 2 starts this spring, and he's thrown 5 innings, given up just 3 hits, 1 run, no walks, and 2 strikeouts, and his fastball is back up to where it was when we saw him in the Futures game when he was throwing 95, 96. When he came to the Yankees in 2020, it was mostly 91, 92, the occasional 93, maybe a 94 here or there. But this spring, he's been sitting 95, 96, and that's important. That means there's nothing wrong with his arm, and his mechanics are working well, and so far he's had some success. So keep Deivi Garcia in mind as a potential fill-in this season. The announcers were commenting that he still has a chance to make the opening day roster as a starting pitcher for the Yankees. And I just don't think that's realistic. I think due to the season he had last season in the minor leagues, it would make more sense to let him iron things out with his updated mechanics and his better velocity and get his confidence up before you throw him back into the mix at the big league level. But it wouldn't surprise me if we see him, if somebody goes down with an injury, which always happens. Now, Clarke Schmidt today had some impressive pitches, but he also kind of lapsed back into that falling towards first base on a lot of his pitches, which tells me he's opening up his front side a bit too much. But he didn't do it every time, which tells me he's aware of it. The thing to keep an eye on with Clarke Schmidt is if he's opening up and that arm is dragging, he'll be missing up and arm side, or up and away from a left-hander. From the offensive side, we've seen some other guys bounce back. Gleyber Torres came into today hitting 8 for 19. That's .421 with a 1.213 OPS, 2 home runs, 4 ribbies, 8 hits. Honestly, he hit 5 home runs last year in spring, so I'm not going to get that excited about the home run total. But what I am excited about is that he's driving the ball well to right field. That means he's staying on the baseball and not trying to pull off and kill it. Apparently, he's been buddy-buddy with his inseparable best friend, DJ LeMahieu, this spring. And LeMahieu has also looked like he's bouncing back. Only 12 at-bats so far for DJ LeMahieu in 6 games, but he's 4 for 12 with 1 home run, got a couple of doubles. He's been spraying the ball all over the ballpark. .333 average, 1.135 OPS. I'll tell you what, this becomes a different team if you get Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu back to previous levels. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has been impressive to me so far, not only offensively, but he's hitting .375. He's 6 for 16. He's got 1 double. That was his first at-bat as a Yankee this spring. He's a guy who's going to make a lot of contact. He's not going to walk a ton, just 1 walk this spring, but sometimes you just need guys to put the ball in play. And he's revamped his swing a little bit. It looks like he's going for a little bit more launch angle, so it wouldn't surprise me if his power takes a tick up. But I like him as a guy who just hits base hits and singles. Last year we had guys getting on base all the time, but we couldn't get him in. Remember how many men were left on base on a nightly basis? It was crazy, and I used the word base a lot there, way too much in fact. But my point is we need somebody to hit those guys in. And I should mention this, I'm recording this while I'm watching the game today, so any stats that I give are going to be coming into today's game. Giancarlo Stanton has been swinging the bat ferociously this spring. 5 for 12 coming into today, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, hitting a cozy .417 with a 1.500 OPS. Aaron Judge, waiting on that contract offer, is 6 for 15. He's got 2 home runs and 3 ribbies. Hit one over the batter's eye the other day, hitting .400 on the spring with a .526 on-base percentage. So right now, the offense looks good, and Kyle Higashioka having a good spring. I've never worried about Higashioka having power. He hit 3 home runs in a game once. I think it was last season or the year before. But he's a guy who has never hit for a high average, but I have no doubt that he can hit 200, which is basically what Gary Sanchez gave you, and he's going to give you more defense. Okay, so let's talk opening day. The concept of a set lineup that a team runs out there every day is kind of antiquated. It's not what the Yankees do. It's not the direction that Major League Baseball is moving. The Yankees this offseason have tried to give themselves a little bit more flexibility to move guys around the field, to have different lineups every day, and to have all those different lineups still be effective. Gone are the Rougned Odors and the Tyler Wades, although I don't want to be too hard on Tyler Wade. He played pretty well when he got a chance last year. But looking at this depth chart, you can see that LeMahieu fits in a number of places. Kiner-Falefa can play shortstop, but he can also play third base, and he's your number 3 catcher. Gleyber Torres, who's probably going to be a starting second baseman most of the time, can also back up at shortstop if needed. And then you've got Oswaldo Cabrera, who's going to begin the year in the minor leagues, it looks like, in favor of Marwin Gonzalez, who's had a very good spring, hit another home run today. So the Yankees have a lot of guys who can kind of move all over the place. And of course, they've got an interesting outfield scenario where Aaron Judge is your best right fielder and probably your best center fielder, too. I think Aaron Hicks is being a little bit optimistic, although I want guys to be optimistic when he says he's trying to get 30-30 this year, 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. I'd be happy if he got half that, 15 home runs, 15 stolen bases. That means he's on the field. he has said in recent interviews that he wants to give the critics, like me, a nice big can of shut the f*** up. And I'm saying here, feed me, baby. Feed me. I want all the shut the f*** up that you can dish out. That being said, I'm going with the jumbo package on opening day, and that forces Aaron Hicks out of the lineup. It forces you to use Giancarlo Stanton in right field and Aaron Judge in center field. Joey Gallo plays left, and that means that Gleyber Torres becomes your DH. You could go with DJ LeMahieu as your DH, but he's a better second baseman in my opinion. Gleyber Torres will get plenty of time at second base this year. And I do like this lineup better than what the Yankees had last opening day. Jay Bruce, anybody remember that? You've got contact at the top with DJ LeMahieu, as we've seen. Anthony Rizzo splitting up the big guys. A solid left-handed bat who's going to come up with men on first and second and nobody out a lot of times this season. And ask Tino Martinez or Paul O'Neill how that works out. A lot of 3-run home runs in that spot if you're a lefty and getting pitches to hit with men on base in the first inning. Giancarlo Stanton batting cleanup. I fully expect Giancarlo Stanton to hit 40 home runs this year and stay healthy. He's looked great this spring. Joey Gallo out there in left. He seems a lot more relaxed. He's a lot bigger and stronger than last year in my opinion. I don't have any data to back that up, but he just looks like he's filling out the uniform a little bit better. He's scooched up on the plate a little bit towards the end of last season and made more contact. We'll see if that happens this year. Josh Donaldson, I think, has done a nice job in spring. He looks great defensively. And then Gleyber Torres, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa give you guys who can make contact in the 7th and 8th spot. So if you're getting a lot of walks from Stanton, Gallo, Donaldson, getting guys on base, these are guys who can move those runners over, knock them in with a double or a single. And then Kyle Higashioka bringing up the rear, still a threat, as we mentioned, hit 3 home runs in a game once. And then you got Ben Rortvedt, who is injured right now, but he's a left-handed bat and a good catcher. You're not worried too much about the number 9 spot. You just kind of hope that they stay healthy. Short episode today. We are 9 days, I think I said 10 earlier, but we are 9 days out from opening day. Hitters are starting to look locked in. Pitching starting to round into form. I can't wait for baseball. Stay tuned for post-game recaps weeknights all season long. Episodes of the Frieze before every series. I'll see you next time.